Hi everyone and welcome to C.A.R.S. Today I'm going to be focusing on recalls and the important role that they play in determining which vehicle that you may want to purchase and when you might want to make that purchase, as well as the specific model year or even trim level that you may be looking for. With that, my main resource today is going to be NHTSA.gov. That's the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, part of the U.S. Department of Transportation. When you go to the NHTSA website, you want to look for the recall section up at the top of the page. From there, you can search by license plate number or VIN, or more of a broad search with just simply the year, make, and model of the vehicle that you're interested in. So today I am focusing on the Maverick. That is the theme for my channel, as many of you may know by now. So with that, let's go ahead and start by looking at the first year that the Maverick pickup was released. That would be the 2022 Ford Maverick. Notice here that we have 14 recalls for each of the 3 trims that are listed here. So the Ford Maverick pickup front wheel drive, the Ford Maverick hybrid electric vehicle pickup front wheel drive, and the Ford Maverick pickup 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, same thing. So in this case, each of those have 14 recalls listed. Now, why would it be so many? One of the main reasons is because when a vehicle is just released, typically the bugs, so to speak, are not worked out of that vehicle until at least a few years into that new model. And also, one thing to keep in mind is when you have a refresh or a facelift, as it is called, oftentimes any little bugs and details are worked out. And then you can start with more of a clean slate, so to speak. And yes, there can still be recalls with any vehicle of any model year and trim level and so forth. However, if you wait until that facelift, generally the details that maybe should have been changed or should have been a little different or should have been better, or perhaps oversights, things that were overlooked, those are typically dealt with by that time. Another thing to keep in mind is if you get a vehicle right before the facelift is released, you have a better chance of having less recalls. Again, no guarantee that there won't ever be any recalls, but that is a greater way to ensure that there are less recalls compared to just shopping around for a vehicle that may or may not have great reviews, and then you purchase it and then all of a sudden there are recalls. One of the things that prompted this video today is that approximately a week ago, I met someone and he told me that he used to have a 2022 Ford Maverick. It was the hybrid electric Ford Maverick. And being that that was the first year that it was released, he had the whole slew of recalls. I know the NHTSA website here shows 14. He told me that he had 15. So perhaps there was some other complication or an additional recall that is not listed here for one reason or another. But in any case, he said he had 15 recalls. And in his case, he had also been rough with the vehicle from what I was hearing. And so it did not serve him very well. Part of that was the recalls, part of it was how he personally used that vehicle. But in any case, that was kind of the worst case scenario. A vehicle that could have a lot of different issues right out the gate because there are so many different systems with that vehicle that have to be worked out and figured out with time. All right. Good news is, though, just keep in mind with these recalls, because they are covered by the manufacturer, the main thing is your time, your convenience, and so forth. And in certain cases, there can be safety issues. So that's a big one there, obviously. But just be aware, sometimes these are just something little. And if you dive deeper, you may find, oh, this was just something related to lighting that isn't ideal. And the manufacturer is going to make an adjustment for that or whatever. All right. I encourage you to dive more deeply. You can click on the links for each of these recalls and find out what they are. You can even view non-recalls and just see what are customers complaining about. What are the manufacturer communications that may not be recalls, but they may be something important to be aware of. In some cases, warranties for certain parts of the vehicle or certain systems of the vehicle are extended because of a possibility of an issue rather than doing a full-on recall. That way the manufacturer is covered and the consumer is covered. All right, let's move on to 2023. Notice with each of these different trim levels listed, the numbers have gone down. In fact, the hybrid Maverick has 0 recalls listed for 2023. Well, how about that? Rather interesting. Now, keep in mind, sometimes there can be an overlap with recalls to where it's something that affects perhaps the body of the vehicle or the lighting of the vehicle or something of that nature that is not dependent upon the powertrain option, like hybrid versus non-hybrid or front-wheel drive versus four-wheel or all-wheel drive. So bear in mind, it is worth looking into each of these trim levels unless you do a VIN search, as is talked about lower in this page, and I'm going to give you an example of that from my truck as well. All right, improvements apparently are made here, hence fewer recalls. Now let's move on to 2024. Again, further improvements, down to just 7 compared to the 14 that we were looking at for the first year, 2022. Now I'm going to narrow this down for my specific vehicle, the 2024 Ford Maverick with the all-wheel drive. And I have blacked out the VIN here, but otherwise you can see there are 0 unrepaired recalls associated with this VIN. As the screen says, what if my car isn't recalled now? Could it be recalled later? Well, yes, of course, and it explains more here. What information will display in the search results? When searching by license plate or VIN, as in this case, you will learn if a specific vehicle needs to be repaired as part of a recall. Well, of course. This gives you further instructions. And it says, what won't the license plate and VIN search show? A safety recall that has already been repaired. So this will actually keep track in the database whether or not your vehicle has actually been repaired. That's very handy if you're purchasing a used vehicle, by the way, as long as you have the VIN and can do the search. It also won't show some recently announced safety recalls for which not all VINs have been identified. VINs are added continuously, so please check regularly. That's great advice. It will also not show safety recalls that are more than 15 years old, except where a manufacturer offers more coverage. It won't show safety recalls conducted by small vehicle manufacturers, including some ultra-luxury brands and specialty applications. It won't show manufacturer customer service or other non-safety recall campaigns. I addressed that briefly earlier. And it will not show a recall involving an international vehicle. So if you're doing a special import of a vehicle, it's not going to necessarily show on something like this. Okay. So this even gives you a quick tip of where to find the VIN with a sample VIN shown and so forth. So I find the NHTSA website is very helpful. It can be great in helping you with your own vehicle that you've already purchased, as well as help in regard to a purchase decision for a future new or used vehicle, as you can see, especially vehicles that are 15 years old or newer. All right, with that, thank you everyone for watching this video today. I hope you learned something new, and best wishes for an amazing weekend. Have a good one.